Guys, let's get into censorship news, and this is kind of important, and it's very important. Rumble could be banned in UK under new online safety laws. Again, they're creating these safety laws. They're creating these fake laws to purposely take away our freedoms, to give us more security, which they're not, and it's all BS. Rumble, the free speech video hosting website, could be banned in the UK under a new online safety laws, as reported here a couple of days ago. The online safety bill was approved by the House of Lords on the 19th of September, but still needs official approval from the King before it can become law. This has not deterred the government from trying to coax platforms such as YouTube to ban Russell Brand due to allegations of historical abuse. But this Russell Brand thing is not a new... He was sex-fueled, drug-fueled up until they pulled the trigger on the pandemic. He turned on a dime for some reason and then changed his tune. But we knew he was already sex-fueled and drug-fueled. This is not news. They weren't doing nothing about it before, but now, for some reason, and you guys know, we all know, that basically France is also spearheading censorship. Macron wants to put France in the dark, and France was putting pressure on Twitter. Remember Twitter? France was looking to ban Twitter, right? And because of the free speech, or people allowing or being allowed to speak freely. But mind you, I'm severely shadow banned on Twitter. I post anything, nobody sees it, so it doesn't really matter. Or I post something, or I create a meme, or have some fun with something, and then all these truthers attack me. It's like, who are you? I never heard of you. Where'd you come from? No one knows you. Are you a post-COVID hero? Are you a COVID hero? So it's kind of weird. So anyways, again, as we reported last week, while YouTube dutifully obeyed, Rumble stayed true to their mission and responded. Although it may be politically and socially easier to join the cancel culture mob, doing so would be a violation of our company's values and mission. And finished with, we empathetically reject the UK's Parliament's demands. Thank you very much, Rumble, for standing up to the government tyranny, right? The gaslighting, everything, right? So you know what's going to happen? Rumble is just going to grow even bigger as people are seeing that Rumble is standing up. So let's go to Reclaim the Net. Let's go to Reclaim the Net real quick. And Reclaim the Net, we've been covering their stuff for years now. Well, since they opened their page. Media and architects of online censorship law heap pressure on Rumble after it defends principle of neutrality. So we just covered that, but it goes on this one to say the mounting pressure comes days after UK passed the online safety bill, and we've been covering the safety bill on here for a while now. One of the most sweeping censorship laws to ever be introduced in the UK. The controversial censorship and surveillance bill is set to come into law next month. The censorship and the surveillance bill, right? Remember the cameras they're putting up all over the UK? That is a major deal. And we are like covering that. We were covering that in depth, and the cameras were being broken and smashed. And right here, USA versus Google week 2. And that is you got to pay for that one. TV networks join the pushback against Australia's proposed anti-misinformation law. Australia is going full-blown. They want the last 3 years to just completely disappear. They want the last 3 years to go off the books. So they're looking for... The truth's going to come out regardless, right? So in a bid to stand up for freedom of speech, Australia free-to-air broadcast networks have raised criticism and about a proposed legislation aimed at combating so-called misinformation. The targets of controversy are the bill's nebulous definitions of harm, potential violations of freedom of expression, and the risk of content censorship by social media platforms complying with government-imposed obligation, right? And it goes on to say, meanwhile, Free TV has already championed a total dismissal of all free-to-air content from the potential law. The Sydney Morning Herald reported the opposing side includes the Greens, who may have substantial influence if the law passes the Senate They argue against giving exemption to news content, pointing fingers at News Corp as potential source of concern. So some of the news is starting to flip in Australia. So in Australia, they're starting to flip. Some of the mainstream media isn't bought and paid for like the Canadian media is fully bought and paid for. So what's happening in Australia, they're having troubles funding. So we got to start telling the truth in Australia. We got to start telling people what it is, what's going on, or we won't get any funding. Right? So they're flipping the script in Australia. They're starting to change things around, and they're starting to tell the truth. And now even the mainstream media is now being seen as a threat by tyrannical governments. So you see how this is going here, and you see how this is playing out, right? So this is a big censorship that's happening, and Europe is going to be the first wall. Mark my words. Europe will be the first country to fall to censorship tyranny. In my opinion, Europe will fall first. Australia and New Zealand will go second, and then Canada, and then the United States will be last, right? And once we can't get our word out, it's almost impossible for us to convey information. We're gonna have to go back to ham radios, go underground. It's gonna be a nightmare, folks, and we need the continuity of relaying information and talking to each other as human beings to convey. That's why here we've been connecting the dots across the Commonwealth since 2012. Because what happens in Australia happens in New Zealand, happens in the UK, then it moves over to Canada, or Canada vice versa to Australia, or blue states of America to Canada, back to blue states, then back to Australia. They're all testing grounds. And they're treating us like animals. And now we can't even speak about it. Even the mainstream media can't speak about it.